In Iran, women's rights have changed drastically depending on the government in power at the time. With each new leadership comes a series of mandates for women regarding issues from voting rights to dress code. Today in Iran, it is compulsory for women and girls to cover themselves with veils. Disobedience is punishable by up to 10 years imprisonment, and in some cases, death. To understand how Iran got here, we need to go back to the beginning of the Iranian women's rights movement. The women's rights movement in Iran first emerged in 1910 after the Iranian constitutional revolution. It led to the establishment of secret societies and magazines in which women published writings. They criticized everything from autocratic rulers, petty officials, and arbitrary courts to the low status of women. Central to their cause was a women's right to education, arguing that providing women with education would make a better Iran overall. Unfortunately, due to the secret operation of their organizations, there is very limited information available about this earliest movement. In 1925, military commander Reza Khan Pahlavi overthrew the Qajar dynasty and became the Shah of Iran. His rule, and his son after him, lasted from 1925 to 1979, and during this time, women's rights made strides in education, desegregation, and legal rights. Reza Shah wanted to build a modernized, Western-aligned Iran where women were provided with rights they hadn't had before. During the Pahlavi era, women were provided with financial support to study abroad, they were admitted to the Tehran University, and in 1944, education became compulsory. This was a significant step in modernizing the country and expanding women's rights, as it marked the first time education was made compulsory for all citizens, including females. On the 8th of January, 1936, Reza Shah issued a decree known as Kashf-e-Hijab, which banned females from wearing all Islamic veils. A highly controversial policy that many of the leading women's rights activists supported, but many conservative women opposed. To enforce this policy, police were ordered to physically remove the hijab from any woman who wore it in public. Women who refused were often harassed or in some cases beaten, with their headscarves being ripped off. Many conservative women simply stayed inside rather than go out in a veil and be harassed by the police. Other women experienced liberation after the mandatory unveiling. For the first time in Iranian history, under the Pahlavi dynasty, women were able to participate as voters and candidates in the parliament election. In the election of 1963, 6 women won seats, advancing women's rights in Iran. By the late 1960s, women held positions in diplomatic corps, the judiciary, the police force, and were elected to town, city, and county councils. In 1968, Faraku Pasa became the first woman to hold a cabinet position in Iran. She became the Minister of Education. In 1966, a coalition of women's groups formed the Women's Organization of Iran. One of the major victories for the WOI was the Family Protection Law of 1975. It gave women the right to seek a divorce, recognized them as legal guardians of their child in the case of the father's death. Child custody and alimony were left to the decision of a special family court. Men were only allowed to have a second wife with the consent of the first wife, and the minimum age of marriage for women was increased to 18. When the Islamic Revolution began in 1977, many women supported the revolution and joined the marches against the monarchy. Their role was both praised and encouraged by the revolutionary leader, Ruhollah Khomeini. The revolution was successful in overthrowing Reza Shah, and his secular regime was replaced with a theocratic government, where Khomeini was declared the official leader of the Islamic Republic.
به جای شاه یک حکومت عدل اسلامی، حکومت دموکراسی به تمام معنا، حکومت مستقل و ایران مستقل میخوام درست کنم.
After the Islamic Revolution, the rights of women changed substantially. In 1979, Khomeini decreed that women should observe Islamic dress code, so mandatory veiling was put into law.
The women of Iran do have an obligation to observe the rules of hijab or veiling. They must be covered from head to foot whenever they appear in public. It's a legal requirement, whatever a woman's religion, and the law is enforced by groups of Revolutionary Guards ever watchful for unveiled women.
Under the new Islamic Republic, women were required to cover their hair and dress modestly in public. Disobedience was considered a criminal act, with women who resisted being fined, arrested, or even lashed. On International Women's Day in March of 1979, tens of thousands of Iranian women took to the streets to protest against mandatory veiling. Their peaceful protests were met with violence. Islamist revolutionaries infiltrated the women, beating and stabbing them. Forokru Parsa, a doctor, an educator, a women's rights activist, and the first woman to serve in the Iranian cabinet as the Minister of Education, was executed by the Islamic Republic for violating Islamic morality. In 1983, an Islamic punishment law was introduced that allowed the punishment of 74 lashes on unveiled women. The law was enforced by members of the Islamic Revolution Committees, then the Guidance Patrols, also known as the Morality Police. During the Khomeini era, the family protection law was suspended. Overnight, the age of marriage for girls was reduced from 18 to 9. Women lost the right to seek a divorce and the right to child custody. Family protection courts were dissolved and women could no longer become judges. The Women's Organization of Iran was dismantled. Women were eased out of government jobs and barred from specific fields of study. Male instructors were removed from teaching in girls' schools, and women and men were segregated again. The status of a woman had once again been reduced to half that of a man. After Khomeini's death, women put pressure on the government to grant more rights to women. A campaign was launched in 2006 to collect 1 million signatures in support of changing discriminatory gender laws in Iran and reforming family laws. The 1 million signatures campaign also aimed to reform laws regarding marriage, divorce, number of partners, age of criminal responsibility, citizenship, blood money, inheritance, and honor killings. Their campaign was unsuccessful, with the initiators of the movement being arrested and sentenced. This hasn't stopped the fight for women's rights in Iran, though. In 2022, Iranians took to the streets after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in custody, having been detained by the morality police for not covering her hair fully.
The morality police are enforcers of Iran's strict Islamic dress code, well documented, confronting women, sometimes violently, for not covering their heads or bodies.
Amini's tragic death ignited the largest protest against the Islamic Republic ever seen. Despite Iranian authorities insisting she died of a heart attack, eyewitnesses, who were detained with Amini, reported that she was severely beaten and died as a result of police brutality. Amini's death has sparked the Women Life Freedom movement. Throughout the protests, women have been seen cutting their hair and setting their hijabs on fire, while men have been seen tearing down posters of the supreme leader of Iran. As of 2023, it is estimated that 19,262 Iranians have been arrested, and 550 people, including women and children, have been killed in the protests due to live ammunition and tear gas being used to break up the crowds. Despite continued repression from the regime, the movement has spread around the world, with many still calling for a change to the discriminatory laws against women in Iran. On the anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death, many gathered to continue the fight.
The Iranian people, no one deserves to die.
The road for women's rights in Iran has been a long and difficult one. Yet despite the many setbacks and lost battles, each new generation of Iranians is more courageous than the last, unafraid to speak out and determined to secure legal, social, and personal rights. They continue to resist in their day-to-day lives and continue to fight against the regimes that oppress them.
ممکنه که قوانین هنوز همون قوانینه، اما اتفاقی که افتاده تحولیه که تو نگاه زن‌ها اتفاق افتاده. تحول اتفاق افتاده. اونها طلب میکنن، میخواهند، حقوق خودشون رو میخواهند.
من باید چی بگم؟ باید بگم آینده رو تیر و تار میبینم یا باید بگم خیلی روشن میبینم؟ نمیدونم. هیچ جامعه‌ای بدون پرداخت هزینه هم به هیچ جا نرسیده. من فکر میکنم که باید حرکت کرد. اگر این حرکت به نتیجه برسه خیلی خوبه، اما اگر نرسه هم یه سنگ بناییه برای حرکت‌های بعدی ما.